Okay, so thought I'd just do a quick introduction to the Status, which is my new project, my new tester. It doesn't replace the state DMX testers, it's got a few more functions than that, and it's going to be quite significantly bigger, so it's aimed at a slightly different type of person or user. But let's dive in and I'll show you what it's all about. So obviously it's a prototype, it's in 3 pieces at the moment. It's got a little touch screen, a main board which has Ethernet, XLR for LTC, 5-pin DMX in and out here and here, a MIDI socket and an encoder which also clicks, unlike the state. Hardware might be up for discussion at the moment, but let's see how we go. So on, and here you see the home screen. I'm just going to adjust the camera to get rid of that horrible reflection. This is the home screen. It shows what all the functions are. So we've got DMX RDM, cable, that's a cable tester, ArtNET MIDI, MIDI timecode, streaming ACN, ping for Ethernet pinging, LTC for linear timecode, OSC, play for playing back memories, and setup for setting the unit up. Okay, here we are. Let's just go straight into the DMX mode, and we'll see how it works. So this is DMX. It's the DMX menu. Here we've got ins and outs. So this is state, which you should be familiar with from the other state testers or any other DMX tester really. The encoder sets the level. You can also click to go to full, things like that. You've got a channel up, channel down. It's making a state, so it's remembering each channel level. Solo's the that channel. Blackout makes a blackout. Pretty self-explanatory sort of stuff. The universe becomes more apparent in the ArtNET mode. Offset should, but it doesn't at the moment, jump channels. So if you're starting at 1 and maybe you had an offset of 3, you can jump up. So you can say interleave look at the red channel or your RGB LED tape or something like that. Down here in save, you've got a way of saving what you've created onto the SD card. I forgot to mention it's got an SD card slot on the bottom. It takes a micro SD, which you should be able to get from the front panel. So if you click the memory box, use the encoder to select a memory number and press save, you can save to the SD card. And that's a text format at the moment, so you can edit it on the computer. You just open it up on a text editor, and you can play them back. The idea is you can play back via DMX, streaming ACN or ArtNET, irrespective of how you actually recorded it. Can't think of a way at the moment to do streaming recording, but that might be a sort of future project. Okay, back in the DMX menu again. Let's look at okay, something slightly more interesting. Let's look at a DMX pattern. So this is a crazily fast. Slow down. Here we are. Pattern generator or function generator. If I just press speed, these buttons on the left-hand side control what the encoder does. So this just incrementally speeds up the waveform you're looking at. This is currently outputting channel 1, just going up and down in a sine wave. If you press wave, it will change the shape of the wave to triangles and squares and all sorts of sawtooths and things like that. So this at the moment is just oscillating between off and on. And if you press top set, you can if you turn the encoder the right way, you can sort of reduce the height of the top of that wave. So say at the moment it's probably going to about 50%. There's a bit of work still to do on here. At the moment I'd like the offset button to allow you to select a range of channels which would then oscillate around that wave, and so you can spread out an interesting chase amongst some fixtures like you would do on a console, which might be useful for testing LED tape or something like that. Okay, that's pretty much all there is to say about that. Okay, back here in the menu again, let's look at scope. This is hopefully one of the slightly more interesting features. I'm going to go straight into channels. I've got another DMX tester hooked up here, so I'm just going to one of the original states, which I use for testing things. Okay, so here in DMX scope, it's got different traces: red, green, yellow, and blue. and at the moment they're just showing channels 1, 2, 3 and 4 and just the levels. So I've got channel 1 selected on my DMX tester here. I'm just going to go channel 1 at 50%. There I can see the red trace going up. If I just wheel it up a bit further, you can see it going up in time. There's no time base noted on the thing at the moment, but it should show you in what time it's doing that. If I choose channel 2, you can see that yellow trace jumping to 50%, and then let's wheel it up to full. That's what full looks like on there. That might be useful for maybe detecting jitters or unusual DMX activity, or maybe just showing yourself a sort of graphical representation of what your actual console output is. The sort of main reason for this is the timing display, which will show the mark after break, the sort of bit time packet rates and things like that, but that currently doesn't do anything, sadly. Okay, back here in DMX menu, there is a fixture mode that's currently very TBC. It needs a lot of work, but ideally what it's going to do is read a fixture library from the SD card and then let you do actual testing on fixtures. But I'm still umming and ahhing about how that's going to work and why we need that. That's sort of my problem at the moment. Okay, while we're talking about network protocols, this is sort of the raison d'etre for why I actually wanted to make this thing. Was having some hideous problems with ArtNET and streaming ACN, and as we've all had problems with networking, is it the network? Is it you? Is it the console? Is it any number of many problems we have with network DMX or network control of lighting fixtures? So I decided to make something which would hopefully simplify the problem, but also allow you to test without using a laptop, because the laptop is got its own inherent problems. Like you might drop it, but also it's you might not set it up correctly. Your IP address might be in conflict with something else. You don't know what you're plugging into. And these days, my laptop doesn't even have an Ethernet port, which is extremely annoying. So here we go. It's currently receiving ArtNET and streaming ACN. The features look very much like the DMX, so I won't bother going into them. But it receives streaming ACN in a multicast way with the ArtNET is broadcast. You can set up the IP address that that the unit sort of defaults to here. It's subnet, things like that. So it's currently at in an ArtNET range, subnet. Tells you a little bit about the battery here in subnet as well, and the free memory on the memory card. Anyway, that's by the by. Another network thing that it can do is ping. So I haven't got a network cable plugged in, but maybe I can sort that out. It will. In fact, I'll just plug one in right now so you can see what's going on. It will let you ping an IP from the unit, and just standard ping stuff really, just so you can see if your network's actually going where you think it's going. So I'm just pinging 100, which is a computer I've got here, sat here on the desk. So there we go. Okay, I've just hooked up a LTC source, my trusty timecode generator, and we'll just show you what that looks like. So here it's showing the voltage level coming in. Needs a bit of calibration, and a sort of guesstimation of the frame rate, and a big clock. Simple as. It does the same with MIDI timecode, and probably more importantly, from the charging port on this, the little USB charging port, there's actually a serial connection to your computer, which is spitting out this string of LTC directly to serial. So that lets you use like a text editor or something to capture or copy and paste actual time stamps from that. I've made a little application, and I hope other people would make applications too, that allow you to display all the data that this thing can capture in a larger format, or maybe into some kind of log, like if you wanted to log MSC cues coming in via the MIDI port, you could make a really simple application, because this does the hard work of decoding for you and outputs via a very simple protocol, a serial protocol over USB. So there's a whole world of software that could be made around this box, which is a kind of exciting thing I'm looking at the moment. Right, let's go out of that for a second. OSC is still work in progress at the moment, but here's a sort of simple example of what we're doing. You can listen on the listen port send to, and these will just have some simple int floats and strings that you can send to my phone from the device, but also it should be able to show you exactly what's coming in at your specified IP address and port. Okay, I've just loaded up a QLab and a MIDI cable here, so we can see a bit of the MIDI working. Here we go. So let's look at MIDI and in. Just says waiting for input. I'm just going to show you. I've just got two MIDI show control cues here. So here we are. That's the go on cue 122, and from device ID 2, and that's a stop from device ID 1. There we are. It's MIDI. Output looks pretty simple as well. You choose your encoder, your channel, note, velocity, etc., and then as you bang this, it just outputs a note on, note off, program change as specified by these numbers. Simple as that. So that pretty much sums up what I've got to say about the status. It's obviously a prototype. I would love some feedback if anyone's got anything interesting to tell me. Also, if anyone out there has some clues on how to work with RDM, particularly RDM discovery, I've got a lot of information about being an RDM responder, but being an RDM master in control of situations is pretty tricky as far as timing goes and things like that. So that's currently a bit of a stalling block. I'm sure people want the RDM mode, it just doesn't do anything at the moment. And maybe you could tell me what you'd like it to look like. It obviously needs to be a bit bigger because of the XLR ports. I still want to do real XLRs. I think it's important. Maybe you don't think it's important, you could let me know. I know other people just do a single cable or maybe a little dongle which adapts to all these different things, but maybe we're in a slightly different product to that. Okay, let me know what you think. Thanks.